There's a few really important things that most contractors convolute or get wrong, and ultimately they end up paying for it in leads, revenue generation, and everything else. The idea of selling your time is a very good perspective to have when you're bidding jobs, processing, managing, being a leader. But ultimately, when you go to sell your product or service to a client, don't sell your time to them. They don't care about your time. They don't know what it's worth. It's not relevant to them. If you can position yourself as, here is the result that you get, here is the payoff you get when you work with me, you turn it into more of a jackpot situation for them. You can offer the price that's real and realistic because they're seeing the end result and they already kind of vaguely know, like in the construction industry, they know what they're going to make on that house. They know probably budget-wise what they're going to be spending per phase, per aspect. So if you have a way to show them, here is the literal payoff you get, and here's the price, and you can keep it cut and dry like that, obviously statistics when they ask for them. But if you can start from there, you're going to be able to sell a lot easier. You're going to be able to sell higher price, and you're going to close faster because you're not trying to negotiate, hey, here's what this piece is worth. Here's what this item is worth. Again, have all that documentation if they ask, but that's once they've crossed the bridge, once they've already gone, yes, I am going to commit and trust. I am going to buy from you. I am going to hire you. But try not to come out of the gates with statistics and numbers and technobabble to sell them cognitively on the idea of using you. People make emotional purchases and then they rationalize those purchases through statistics and metrics and numbers. So if you yourself can sell the payoff, the outcome, the result, you're going to have a lot better time. For instance, I'm here standing on one of my machines. I have a construction company as well. And this big open field, we've only worked with this person a couple times. And both times didn't actually initially like our price at all, but immediately next day ended up calling us out. It's not like we were the only bid, but it's the fact that I could show her exactly what the end result was going to be, the payoff, and I know that she has a budget in mind. And immediately she realized, I'm not going to have to babysit these people. I'm not going to have other hiccups here and there. I'm not piecemealing a la carte every part of this service. I'll call them out. And they show up when they say they will, and they're warranted, they're bonded. All of those pieces were after she already realized the payoff. They're going to have my excavation, all my pads done. They're going to get it done in one day. Then she starts rationalizing, well, they are bonded, they are insured. If I piecemeal it together, then, if then. Don't flood out the gates with that. It's fine for advertisements if you want to target one specific problem at a time. Like if you're going to have a meta ad or you're going to put out flyers or anything, you can find one of those problems that you think is very prevalent. Like, are you sick of having to babysit your subcontractors? We use that one all the time because it's in the right language of construction companies. Are you sick of hand holding every single sub that comes through? You don't have to do that with us. That is language specifically to one target audience member. It's those site general managers, project managers. They are sick of hand-holding people, so you speak in their language. But when you are actually closing a deal, again, it's going to be emotional. So if that was your hook of how you got them there, you still don't want to sell them the hook. You want to sell them the payoff, the result of, yes, this phase of construction that you need done will be done. And the icing is that you don't need hand-holding for it. If you're, a hairdresser, there's a million hairdressers. But if you sell the result of whatever your specific flavor of hairdressing is, if it's therapy hairdressing, you're actually selling the result of come get your hair done, take care of yourself, nurture yourself, and get some things off your chest. If you don't do that and you want to strictly, you sell what it is you're doing and what you're good at, and you do it through the lens of the payoff and the result. Again, specific items are fine in ads because you're targeting someone who needs that specific payoff. But the overall result is what you want to cater towards. And if you can come out into an empty field with nothing, and you can draw the picture in the client's head of here's what you're going to get after the fact, and I'll have this done in a few hours. If they had an image, and this is their first time ever using you, and they got this idea in their head, and it seems pretty ideal, and then you deliver that, and it was exactly what they imagined, they're not going to bother with someone else, because someone else is going to try to tell them, oh, well, it's only this much for this piece, and this piece is cheaper, and then the fence over there will do, and then the driveway is going to be this, and each of the rocks, I don't want to work. Who wants to work? I just want to be like, hey, that thing you did last time, can you do it again? Yeah? Okay, end of conversation. Here's the address. Yeah, we'll read the plans. You don't have to tell us how to read plans. You find the client that you're trying to work with, what their problem is, so you can sell them the payoff with the cherry on top of their specific gripe. And if you can't figure out a specific gripe, you are either brand new to your industry or you are just not listening. And if it's the latter, that's fine, because Google reviews exist. Go find the highest performing competitor who you think you could potentially, if everything went right, you could potentially be doing as good as them in the next year or two. Go find that person, like in the field you want, the ideal, I wish I was that. Go find all their bad reviews. There you go. Every single person that's ever left a bad review for them, that's not everyone that ever had that bad service. That's just people who were passionate enough to go say something. You take all of their clientele right there. All of those people. I mean, this job specifically, it is completely barren, which is why I'm making this video with this metaphor right now. All I'm going to be doing is moving dirt around. But from the perspective of this client, they also see barren, and in their head they have the idea of, oh, these rectangles and these polygons and these shapes need to be dug down 1 foot so I can be ready for foundation and concrete. She also knows that before that, it's clay out here, so she has to get someone to chemically inject the ground with lime to stabilize the clay so it doesn't flex. You have to schedule those things in advance. So she is trusting that I'll be done here in time for them to show up tomorrow, because she's already pre-scheduled them a week out. Both of us are scheduled. So in any other field, if there's a timeline that you can take advantage of and create trust there, that's another way to retain the client. But you still get there from the payoff, not from how cheap your service is. That's a race to the bottom. If you're trying to have the lowest price, you're going to be competing with the Walmarts of your industry, and that's a wild struggle. In the very beginning, it's fine if you're using that as a leverage to like over deliver, but you got to be clear, like, hey, this is right now, I'm giving you a crazy deal so you can try me out. So they know that a price increase is coming in the future. But otherwise, don't try to be the cheapest guy. Unless your business model is provide the cheapest, shittiest service just to make a buck and then get out. Which, please don't do that. But there is a market for it. If there's some sort of time aspect to what you do, and you can own that time aspect and you become locked in their mind as the person that they don't have to worry about messing up their schedule, you become a place of comfort. You become a place of, well, at least it's this subcontractor, or at least it's this technician or this service industry member, or at least it's this lawyer, city manager, whoever it is. At least I know this person will respond timely. If you can own the timeliness. If you can't, make sure you're folding that into how you work, and then find something else that you're owning, because maybe they don't need you to respond timely. As long as you get back to them within a few days and they're knowing that ahead of time, hey, this guy doesn't get back to me, right away, but he also has this network. I can call this. We've got a CPA we work with. This guy is so slammed busy. Sometimes he'll answer first time it rings, but he does that with any of his clients. So sometimes he won't answer you at all that day. You leave a message, but you know and you trust he's going to listen to that message, and he's already going to be working on it even before he has a chance to call you back. So again, if you can't own the time aspect, there's something you can be so good at and you own, and that's what you're known for, and then they can factor it in. It's not necessarily that you're there at their call and beckon, kissing their toes. It's that you're reliable in some aspect. So if you're selling the outcome and the payoff, and they know you are reliable in some sort of way, it's a lot easier to make that sale and keep that client.